Welcome to Rescue Paws Stories, your go-to place for heartwarming and emotional humans and animals stories. Officer Jake Daniels had been on the force for over 15 years. A quiet man haunted by the things he'd seen, broken homes, lives torn apart, and comrades lost in the line of duty. He carried a heaviness in his heart that few understood. After losing his canine partner Leo 3 years ago in a tragic shootout, something inside him shut down. He stopped talking about dogs. He stopped smiling. His fellow officers noticed the change, but knew better than to press. Then, on a bitterly cold February morning, a call came in. Animal Control reported a badly injured German Shepherd abandoned in an alley behind a grocery store. Most officers would have passed the job to Animal Services, but Jake didn't. Something made him answer the call personally. What he found broke him wide open. The dog was curled beneath a trash bin, shivering uncontrollably, blood dried on its hind leg, eyes swollen but alert. Jake moved slowly, his voice low and steady, whispering, "Hey buddy, I'm not here to hurt you." The shepherd didn't growl. Instead, it let out a weak whimper, collapsing in surrender. Without hesitation, Jake took off his jacket and wrapped the dog in it. He drove straight to the local vet, his hand resting protectively on the dog the entire way. The vet said the dog had been hit by a car days earlier and had a deep infection, possibly sepsis. "We can try," she said, "but he's on the edge." Jake stayed by the dog's side through the night. Something about the shepherd, the same brown eyes, the silent strength, reminded him of Leo. When the vet asked if he wanted to name the dog for the paperwork, Jake replied, "Shadow," because he followed me out of my darkness. The recovery was slow and uncertain. Shadow lost part of his hind leg, but not his spirit. Every day, Jake visited, feeding him by hand, talking to him like an old friend. By the 3rd week, Shadow lifted his head when Jake entered. By the 4th, he wagged his tail. When he was finally discharged, Jake brought him home. Not as a rescue project, but as a second chance for them both. They trained together. Shadow, despite his injury, was sharp, loyal, and unbelievably intuitive. Jake took him on quiet patrols and therapy visits at the local school. He began to smile again. Kids called them the Wounded Warriors. Jake started speaking at community events about second chances, for animals and humans alike. His bond with Shadow became legendary in the precinct. It wasn't just about a man saving a dog. It was about 2 broken souls who healed each other through loyalty, pain, and unconditional love. One day, while visiting a school, a boy asked Jake, "Why do you love him so much?" Jake knelt beside Shadow, who was resting with a paw over Jake's boot, and replied, "Because he didn't give up on life. And neither did I." As the months passed, Shadow became more than just a companion. He became a symbol of resilience. Children who had once been too afraid to speak in public now eagerly gathered around Shadow during his school visits, petting him, reading to him, and learning about compassion. Elderly residents at the local nursing home waited eagerly for Jake and Shadow's weekly visits. The dog, once abandoned and broken, now brought warmth to the coldest hearts. But perhaps the most incredible change was in Jake himself. He had started journaling again, something he hadn't done since Leo passed. His words weren't just about loss anymore. They were about hope. Then came a night that would forever solidify Shadow's place in the community. During a late patrol, Jake and Shadow responded to a distress call from a woman whose ex-partner had broken into her home. The man had a weapon. Jake approached cautiously, but before he could fully assess the situation, the suspect lunged at him with a knife. Shadow, despite his missing limb, sprang into action with lightning speed. He tackled the assailant, keeping him pinned long enough for backup to arrive. Jake suffered a minor wound, but the woman and her child were safe, all thanks to Shadow's bravery. The media caught wind of the story. Headlines read, "Three-legged hero dog saves officer's life." Shadow was awarded a special medal by the department, and during the ceremony, Jake spoke publicly with tears in his eyes for the first time in years. "This dog didn't just save me tonight. He saved me months ago. He reminded me that even when you lose something, life still has purpose. You just have to find it again." But the journey didn't stop there. Inspired by their story, Jake and a few colleagues started a new community program, Second Leash. It helped veterans, trauma survivors, and abandoned dogs find one another. Shadow became the program's mascot. He visited every training session, every adoption day, greeting each new pair with a soft gaze and a gentle tail wag. He was a living testament to survival, a bridge between past pain and future healing. One evening, after a long day of mentoring new recruits and attending a school assembly, Jake and Shadow sat by the lake, where Jake used to go alone to grieve. The sun dipped low over the water, painting the sky in hues of gold and orange. Shadow, aging now but still proud, rested his head on Jake's knee. Jake stroked his fur, whispering, "You were supposed to be just a rescue, but you rescued me more than I ever rescued you." The wind rustled the trees, and Jake swore he could feel Leo's presence there too, watching over them. He smiled softly. A man once shattered, now whole again, because of a dog no one else wanted, because of Shadow. As the seasons changed, so did Shadow. His steps grew slower, his once razor-sharp instincts now softened by age. Jake noticed the graying fur around his muzzle and how Shadow lingered longer during their walks, sniffing the air as if savoring every second. But with each passing day, their bond only deepened. Jake adjusted his routines, ensuring that Shadow's final years were filled with comfort, purpose, and above all, love. Shadow's story had spread far beyond their small town. Letters poured in from all over the country, from children who had overcome bullying, from veterans who found strength in their own rescued dogs, and from families who started to see animals not as burdens, but as bridges to healing. Shadow had unwittingly become a national symbol of hope. Jake was invited to speak at conferences and schools, sharing their journey. But he never sought fame. "This story," he always said, "belongs to Shadow." Then, one winter evening, with snow gently falling outside and the fire crackling inside their cozy home, Shadow lay beside Jake, his breathing shallow but peaceful. Jake knew. He lay down next to his old friend, wrapping an arm around him like he used to when Shadow first came into his life. Broken but brave. Whispering through tears, Jake said, "You've done enough, buddy. Rest now. I'll carry the mission from here." Shadow passed away quietly that night in the arms of the man he saved. The entire town mourned. Flags at the precinct flew at half-mast. A memorial was held in the town square, attended by officers, rescue volunteers, and families who had been touched by his story. A bronze statue of Shadow, triumphant and proud, was erected at the entrance of the Second Leash Center, where every dog and every human could look up and be reminded, even the broken can be heroes. Jake kept Shadow's collar on his desk, next to a framed photo of them at the lake. Every time a new rescue dog walked through the doors of Second Leash, Jake would kneel down, look into their uncertain eyes, and say, "Let me tell you about Shadow." And as he spoke, it was like Shadow never truly left. Because love like that, unconditional, healing and fearless, never really dies. It lives on in every bark of hope, every wag of redemption, and every life saved by the one society nearly gave up on. Years passed, and though time had taken Shadow, His legacy blossomed in ways Jake could have never imagined. The second leash center expanded into neighboring towns, offering not just rescue and rehabilitation, but therapy programs for children with trauma, veterans with PTSD, and the elderly who had lost everything but memory. Each new dog that came through was named in honor of those who came before. Names like Courage, Hope, Valor, and yes, even Little Shadow, a small but fiery pup who reminded everyone of the legend himself. Jake, now with more gray in his beard than brown, remained at the heart of it all. He became known not just as Officer Jake, but as the Dog Whisperer with a badge. Young officers would come to him for more than tactical advice. They came seeking what he and Shadow had, a partnership built on loyalty, healing, and silent understanding.